This was the opening move by young Denis Lazavik. What did Hikaru Nakamura do in response? Brings out the knight, we get the explosive c4, e6, knight f3, and look at this. He only goes and builds the Catalan defense, named after a chess playing cat called Alan. Very few people know that. This is an incredible game where the young chess prodigy destroys the world's #2 chess player, #1 blitz arguably, and it's on a titled Tuesday round. They're fighting for first place here. It was just played yesterday, the 1st of April, not an April Fool's joke. Let's dive into this awesome online chess game. We now see the move of takes on c4 by Hikaru. You could win back your pawn after a check, but instead the bishop tucks into bed. Hikaru prepares to support the pawn, castles, he brings out the pony, and you could of course do the same with the white pieces, but Denis, he develops with a whoosh, cutting edge guildmaster Catalan theory. Hikaru now saves his rook in the corner, and now the queen sidesteps, looks at the pawn. Why didn't it go to c2? No one's got a clue. Let us know down in the comments if you think you've got an inkling. And you could of course take on d4, but you lose the initiative. Could get a bit risky as well. So instead b5's played, just supporting that central pawn. Now we see rook d1, the bishop develops, and the best move here is pawn to b3, because you can't take or the knight drops, therefore white soon taken. It's a nice pawn structure, but missed. Denis gallops forward here with an A, and after this move of takes, he builds a nice pawn structure. Again, you can't take in the center, you're walking into way too much trouble, right? So we do see this. Pawn captures, and where should the pony head? You can technically go to d5 because you open up tension here. You know, if takes, queen takes, but we won't go down the line. Hikaru steps back. Now we see the bishop dropping back here, supporting this pawn. Not that you can yet take because there's a pin. So g5's not working, just weakens the position. Bishop e3. Therefore, this one develops. We see an exchange of the snipers, and after b3 now played, we don't see takes. Why not? Because after pawn recaptures, you're opening this guy, you're opening Her Majesty, this one's still blasting. It's a huge initiative for white, even though you can technically achieve c5 soon. So not played, we jump back. Instead we see the simple pawn c5, preparing to get that queen out the danger zone. Now we see takes on c4, queen c7, the knight develops into the game. And after castles, we can see why Hikaru stands a little better here. He's got the better pawn structure, right? White's got the 3 pawn islands, and there's nothing wrong with his development. We see the knight centralize, headed for d6, and you could technically take the pawn. Yes, you walk into the pin, but after it's intensified, you can play the very stinky pawn f6. Nasty structure, but hey, it's a pawn. Black stands a bit better. Hikaru didn't want it though. He plays the great move of queen c6, attacking the knight, just a different game. You could immediately jump in, but instead queen c2. Now h6 prepares to kick that bishop, but we don't get the immediate h4. Instead the knight jumps, hits the rook, and if bishop takes, well, this one's going to come streaming in. So we see rook back to b8. Now h4 supports the bishop, and knight b6, great rotation, hits the pawn, maybe looks to bounce here, and so Denis takes, pawn recaptures. Hikaru's now got a runner, pass pawn on the c file, so Denis fights back with e4, takes control of d5, looks to rotate the queen and launch an attack on the black king, but as you can see, not necessarily the best. Hikaru stands better. He explodes the board with c4, and picture now this, you know, this could get very dangerous for white. So Denis snakes the queen over to the king side. The knight hits the edge of the board. Queen g4 goes for the attack, but you could just play king h7 actually. There isn't enough fuel to throw on the fire right now. However, Hikaru gets spooked. He takes on d6. Now this pawn recaptures, not the rook. generating that passed pawn. We see queen takes on e4, setting up the pin, because now if you take, well, the queen drops, of course. So d7 from Denis. He opens the bishop on that one. It jumps in front of the pawn, blockading, and now f3 is this real ninja move. Get this one out the way. There's no check. White stands better. But instead, we see Chewbacca's favourite move, the Wookiee one. It kicks away the queen, and although it's not the best, it has the desired effect of Hikaru going wrong. He should go to g6. Ugly structure, but hey, it's the best. Instead, he plays this one. Honey, I'm home. Mum and dad reunited, but not an ideal square for the lady. Very, very dead. And white could now play bishop d6. You hit the rook, and where's it headed? Now, still the game goes on. Black's got a dangerous pawn, or could set up an absolute octopus, but instead Denis goes rook a d1, misses the bishop move, but it's not the best, because now Hikaru jumps, hits that rook, it slides up the board here, and knight d3 sets up an octopus that Stocktopus can be proud of. I mean, it's maneuvers like this that Hikaru practices all day for, with Ali Reza, with Fabi. There he is, practicing away. He even just picked up a new Nimble 2000 hobby horse. Beautiful piece of kit. He's really perfected that eloquent style. We now see rook e3, saved from the knight attack, but the bishop can drop. That was a monster. Even though the knight was great, you know, so was the bishop. It was about to come here, and now queen b1 check, picking up the pawn is best, but queen c2, it allows pawn a3, but missed. Denis activates his queen. You could take the pawn, but Hikaru does take the pawn, mixing up my lines. Now we get king g2, and this is an epic moment, because after check, you should jump away to h2 here with the king, but it doesn't happen. Denis steps back. They're both scrambling on seconds, but look at Stock Squid pooped its pants, because there's an epic move here of queen a1. Sets up the right triangle, away goes the rook. However, missed by Hikaru Nakamura, usually so sharp. Instead, he plays queen b8, a real sign of how strong Denis is. Hikaru's not scrambling at his best. The queen trade offered declined, and queen a8 is best because you threaten the same tactic if the pawn is taken, but it wasn't played. Hikaru does this one before Denis can do anything else. This pawn, however, drops. Yes, this is running, but the rook can scramble back just in time. The d pawn hit, defended. Now pawn b2, rook defended, also attacks the pawn, defended once more. They're scrambling, queen drops back, attacks the pawn, defended. Now we see George Lucas's favourite move, r2d2, and after the pawn is attacked one more time, we see this one to counter attack, queen d1. And Hikaru Nakamura does something that he never does, loses on time in a scramble. Absolute scenes at Hikaru HQ. Where's this come from? He then goes on to lose this game, of course, but he did have a great tournament. Shouldn't take anything away. He actually won the competition by half a point. He's storming it yesterday. Also came second in the morning tournament. Fair play for getting the job done. But wow, this guy Denis Lazavik is an exciting blitz player. Hope you enjoyed. Have a look at the video on screen if you want some more epic chess. And I hope to see you again soon. Cheers.